The next step in your process of starting your own business has to do with finances, and finances cover quite a bit of an area, but the first part is on budgeting. And you want to really budget for every aspect of your business. And the first part is going to be on taxes and those tax estimates. I recommend having an account actually set aside for any tax monies you take out of people's checks, for employees, even for yourself as an employee of your company. If you take out $100, put that into a savings account, so when tax time comes, that money's waiting for you to go ahead and pay. If you spend the money that belongs to the IRS and don't give it to them, that's the worst thing that can possibly happen actually in business, and they will come after you. So please, 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 when you take money out of a check that does not belong to you, give it back to the IRS when the time comes, and your state as well for all those taxes. Don't that's the one area not to be behind on. The next area is really to find out, first of all, when it comes to finances, what is your financial need? We have a budget, we pay our cable bill, we pay a phone bill, we pay a rent, we pay all these things, and we never quite ask ourselves, what do I actually need? And most people in business, we take for granted what we have been spending and don't really go for annually. You should be going through your entire budget and think, do I need to have this? So you might find you can cut $1,000 a month out of your budget of what you actually need, which changes your goals a bit. So go through that, and like I said, the 4-hour work week talks about your priorities and what's important to you, and deal with your true budget of what you actually need before you move on from there. Under the area of finance, we're dealing with cash flow. And cash is going to come and go in your business. And you might have $10,000 or more that's been billed to insurance companies. You owed that money. That money is supposed to be yours. It's not there yet. But that money has not quite come in yet, so your cash flow is going to be slow, and you've got still have bills that are due. So many companies will look at having maybe a line of credit to help with those expenses, but please be careful with debt. Debt is going to be a dangerous thing for you, and we'll discuss debt more in a second, but have some ability to have a buffer in your account to pay bills as they come in, and realize that it's not going to always be coffers full of cash when you're in business for yourself, so be prepared for that. Personally, when times are slower, that's a great time to spend your extra time marketing, giving out your free massage, using that time versus sitting at your office and thinking, wow, what do I do now? So use every spare moment you have to build your business and to think. I actually had a friend, and every Monday he would spend the entire day with a pad and paper, and he would plan. What am I going to do next? How can I make my business better? And he would plan, so he used his time very wisely and had those planning periods. So when you have slow times, do the same thing. Plan for your business and find ways to improve. The next thing is to understand your business. As a massage therapist, that's one revenue stream. Doing massage therapy is one revenue stream. Think of other revenue streams as well. You might want to sell products. You might want to give classes. There's a number of things you can possibly do. I would be cautious of network marketing programs that are out there. A lot of folks are going to want to get you involved in selling vitamins and various supplements, and they'll sell you on the neat advantages of having this big income, and you start going to rallies and you get all excited and pumped up for this certain brand of product, and oftentimes there's a lot of hype involved, and it's almost pyramid scheme where people at the top are making great money, but the people like yourself, there's very few who are actually making a great living. And that detracts so much from your key focus of massage therapy that you end up not doing well in massage and not doing well with that side business, and pretty soon you're not making money at all. So please be careful on your time allotment, and when it comes to additional income and various revenue streams, don't necessarily think about doing those kinds of businesses where you're doing network marketing, because it's not the best way to network. It's very, very specific and very almost limiting to what you're trying to do, and be careful. Just my personal caution. Look at revenue streams. Also, maybe doing parties. You might want to do special, like a Tupperware idea, but you might want to do a special class where you help someone invite their friends over, teach them a neck massage, or teach them a hand massage, or teach a foot massage. And during that time, people get to see who you are, get an idea for your touch, and get an idea for your personality. Maybe they want to come and get a regular massage from you. At that point, you can do pre-sales of certificates at that party. Now you have cash flow coming in. I had a woman who went to my school years ago, And she said, don't tell anybody about my idea. And about 3 months later, she came back and she said, tell everybody. It's a great idea, and I have too many clients now. So she would have these parties, and she would say, look, if you invite your friends, and for every certain number of certificates I sell, you'll get a free massage. And she walked out of her first party with $2,000 in cash in her pocket because she was able to pre-sell people on these massage packages where they would get free massages for a certain rate. Again, careful on the discount aspect. Talk about, they pay for 5 to get a 6th one free or something like that. But she walked out of that party environment with a lot more cash flow, and that helps her pay her bills right up front. Also, think about marketing your certificates during Valentine's Day or Christmas, or have a sign on your wall for birthdays. And when you do your intake forms and you find that person has something coming up, or they mention they have a son's birthday, suggest it. Say, hey, have you thought about a gift certificate for a family for a gift? And they may have not thought about that. And now, since it's so easy, they can say, oh, my shopping's done by buying a certificate from you. So don't be afraid to suggest to people about gift certificates. It's a great way to have cash flow for your business. So I mentioned lines of credit and debt. It's not a good thing to have. Sometimes it's a necessary evil to have, but debt is the number one cause of many people I've seen who's gone under in their business, and it's all because of debt. Good debt versus bad debt. Good debt is something that you have temporarily. You have the means to pay it off if you need to, but you have working capital. So, for example, I have a car payment, and I owe less on my car than it's worth. So that's not bad debt. I can sell my car today, pay off my loan, have cash left over. So that's good debt. Usually a house is good debt. But buying something that's instantly worth much, much less than you paid for it, it's not good debt. So be careful with debt for your business. I've seen companies, like I said, I know 2 individuals specifically who went out and they got a large loan for their company. They had the highest quality business cards, the laser cut made. They had expensive art for their office, thinking that people would be impressed by their art. Spent money on the top of the line massage tables. Everything was the best of the best. One person invested $50,000, one invested $100,000 in their practice, and they started living off of some of that money that they borrowed, and within no time at all they're out of business because they didn't have the cash flow. Because guess what? People like high quality massage. They're not impressed by $5,000 pieces of art or a fountain or a fish tank or whatever. So be careful about debt and make sure you're using it wisely in your practice, but do not live on debt. Don't borrow money and use that to feed yourself. It's like getting seed for a farmer, and the farmer doesn't plant the seed, but instead he eats the seed. Well, it's a bad use of the seed. So make sure you're really taking the time to invest and use money wisely in debt, but don't just spend it on anything. Make sure you're investing that wisely. It's not often you're going to have debt collection agencies that you hire to do things for you, but if you have someone who owes money for whatever reason and they do not pay that, don't be afraid to talk to a debt collection company in your area. We had a debt collection company in our area that we used that would give a series of letters first, and then if that didn't work, they would go ahead and turn it into a full collections program where you would get 70% of the money, and if they got paid within a certain amount of time, great. If not, it would turn into a 50-50 situation where they would spend more money, but they guaranteed to go to court if they had to. But hopefully you're not going to have collections for your people. Make sure they're paying their bills on time. So when you have money owed to you through a personal injury claim, for example, that's not going to be something you would send to collections. But you will want to make sure you file a lien with the county and put a lien down to have first dibs at the money that comes out of a settlement. But you have to tell the attorney who's representing that person that A, you filed a lien, B, here's a copy of that, and C, every month or so tell the attorney how much money they owe, what's the balance of that bill, what's the interest on the account. So when they make that settlement, they have proper numbers to deal with. So it's your responsibility to file a lien to protect your own interests, but also it's your responsibility to tell the attorney that there is a lien filed in general, and that requires communication. So make sure you do that. Other debt you're going to deal with is startup costs. Again, if you're going to have a new office, you do have to buy a massage table. You do have to pay for certain things that are obvious, like a computer perhaps. Just don't buy the best of everything. Just budget yourself, start slow. And remember that the best way to make an office look expensive is lighting and paint. And you don't have to spend lots of money on everything to impress people. Just start slow and add things as you need to. But go ahead and make your startup costs as lean as possible and have construction done. Maybe the landlord will pay for that, like I said, but don't go deep in debt to cover the cost of preparing an office before you start. Back when I was a massage student back in 1989-90, there was an article called the $90,000 a year massage practitioner, and that was back then. And this person bought the highest quality linens, nice massage table, bed warmer. He would warm the bed up ahead of time, and high quality oils. Everything was the best. And he would go into people's homes and he charged a lot for the massage, but he made it a very opulent experience, and just went over the top. And people would refer their friends because he got known for this amazing massage with an amazing experience, and he had no rent. He had very little overhead and costs. And so you might be able to start your business that way, get known, and then eventually rent a facility. But just rent what's necessary with shorter term leases at first until you build your business up. When it comes to expenses, there are necessary expenses and obviously unnecessary expenses. I've heard over and over massage therapists have said, oh, I have too high of a tax bill, I need to have write-offs. Okay, well, if your tax bracket, let's just say, is 25%, it would be foolish to spend $1 so you could save 25 cents. Right? So if you had to buy something, if something was necessary to buy, of course you're going to use that for a write-off. But you don't ever buy something to save money on taxes. It doesn't make sense. When it comes to areas that you can write off, obviously talk to your CPA and they'll explain to you your various options. I'm going to give you a few categories you might use, but the first thing you're going to write off is going to be rent. If you have a place to rent, you'll write that off. If you own a home and you're using a part of your home for that, there's two different ways to go, and your CPA can explain that. And it's also in the video that we have with Sue Vickerman. You're going to watch that. But she talks about not just writing off the house a percentage of your home, there's also a flat deduction the IRS gives you as an option. So make sure you use the one that's best and most beneficial for you. If your house is half used for business, well, obviously that might work better for you. So talk to your CPA and see what the best way to go is. But the first expense area is rent. That's going to cover your office space, your storage that you use, any retail areas. And you write those areas off in your business or out of your home on a percentage basis. Utilities is going to be included. That's like your electricity, telephone, internet services, that kind of thing. If you're working at home, again, a percentage of your utilities would be used for that. You're going to be writing off insurance, and you'll be covering those areas and any kind of policies that cover your business against loss and theft. And perhaps any kind of liability is going to be covered under your professional liability insurance through the American Massage Therapy Association or ABMP. Healthcare is another one you're going to have, or maybe for yourself or for employees. And sometimes it's included in this category is the premiums for that, for healthcare. But talk to your CPA because when you're working for yourself, there's different ways they handle that write-off. Fees are another area that might be different types of fees for your business, but you might be dealing with business registrations and renewals, those kinds of things. Professional fees, attorneys, accountant fees, bookkeeping, any kind of tax preparation, any advisor you have. If you have a mentor you work with that charges you, that'll be part of it. This program that you're involved with right now, that's a tax deductible investment in your business. Any payroll, those kinds of things, any companies that handle payroll for you, those are all going to be included. Obviously, wages are a business expense. Dealing with the benefits that they have, all the costs of having an employee and paying an employee are going to be included for your deductions. You'll be having taxes, and taxes are obviously a deduction, and your CPA will help you with that. So any money, again, that comes out of someone's check, again, it belongs to the government. Make sure you pay that on your returns. But budget and save for that. Talk to your CPA and get a proper program for employment and compensation. I use QuickBooks, and there is a module that you pay extra for from a payroll standpoint that handles all of that for you. So when you write someone a check for $1,000, it automatically breaks down what the withholdings are, what the unemployment is, all those various aspects, and you'll want to make sure you have that program put in place. You can use a CPA for every aspect of your accounting, but that's going to cost you money. So typically they're going to ask you for a backup of your disk for that, or have you upload it to their website, and they'll do your taxes for you and make any changes or corrections necessary, and re-download that database and fix it and put it back into your computer. When it comes to taxes, though, there is black, there's white, and there's gray. So some laws are open to interpretation. Some things can be kind of pushed as far as your tax deductions go, and you can say, well, how do you rationalize spending money for a certain thing for your business? So if you are only using Netflix For example, only when you're on the road for your business and you use that instead of renting movies at hotels, well, that would be a business expense for your entertainment. So everything has to be used for business if you want to write that off for business. So be aware of that. Talk to your CPA. But my mentor years ago said, think Schedule C. That's for sole proprietors. But how can you take any expense that you have and think about, is this business? So if you're going to the store to get a carton of eggs, but you also have your business mailbox there, and that trip is to pick up your mail, well, that trip is tax deductible. You're picking up your mail, and while you're there, you can shake hands with a friend, you can have a coffee or whatever, but your trip was for your business purposes. So be able to rationalize your business expenses. Morgan Stanley once said, he says, you need to pay your taxes, but there's no law that requires you to give a tip. So pay what you have to, but don't be so afraid of the IRS that you're not willing to be creative in your tax accounting to make sure you find excuses for writing something off. Does that make sense? Okay, so you're not cheating the government, you're not lying, but you're being creative, and you're looking at every aspect of your business and thinking, how can this be business related? And if it is, ask your CPA, and they'll help you find a way to write that off in an ethical, effective manner to reduce your tax bill. The next area is going to be on interest and the cost of borrowing money on your loans, and hopefully you won't have debt. If you have a credit card, ideally you pay that off every month. Credit card interest is very, very high typically, so carrying debt on credit cards is not a good idea. If you find yourself with long-term debt for a build-out or expense for a new computer or something, you might want to go to your bank and ask for a specific loan for that equipment, and you'll have a lower interest rate for that purpose. If you do have a line of credit for your business, realize too that the bank can require that money back at any given moment. So talk to your bank about that in the fine print. But when you have a line of credit, let's say it's $100,000 or $50,000 or $20,000, they want that typically paid off every year at some point, having that balance drop down to zero. It's not intended for long-term borrowing. So again, talk to your bank and find out what the expectations are, because they may call up one day and say, hey, we want this paid off. So a line of credit is a working capital. It's not designed for long-term debt. Another area of write-offs is going to be your general supplies. It's going to be paper, pens, file folders, paper clips, that kind of thing, toner for your printer. But anything that has to do with your business supplies is going to be an area of tax deduction or write-offs. Another area is depreciation. When you buy something like a computer, oftentimes you want to write that entire thing off on your bill that year, in your tax bill, and have a deduction. And sometimes you have to actually amortize that over a period of years. So it might be 3 years or 5 years, and your CPA will tell you, but you'll be able to take part of that expense off your tax bill every year as far as reducing the amount of profit you made. And you might think at first that's not fair, but as you become more profitable, your tax bracket will go up, and having that write-off later is actually more advantageous. So don't be upset about being required to wait to write some of that off, but that will be depreciated over time, and they'll divide up that cost of write-off over time. Usually that write-off and depreciation is going to have to do with office equipment, computers, copiers, fax machines, if you still have those, scanners of any type, and that kind of thing. So machinery or large machinery, that kind of thing, typically is going to be involved. Or even a car if you buy an actual car for your work, and that's a whole different aspect of write-offs. But understand that. Preferably, you're going to be renting equipment or leasing that for a lesser term, and versus buying it, because you've lost that value. So a lease can be written off immediately. There is some sales tax involved differently with leases, so talk to your CPA and get their recommendation, but you don't have to go out and buy all this stuff right away and take that money out of your pocket. You can find other ways to rent equipment or have a longer term lease made up for you. Any maintenance costs of your equipment obviously is tax deductible. Costs of cleaning your offices and travel is going to be included. Everything from parking fees to renting cars for business. So when it comes to cars, for example, you can buy a car personally, and you can divide up the cost based on a percentage of mileage. So you want to track all your miles and your business mileage versus personal mileage. You can use your car for work, but if I use it half and half, and I have an oil change, or half the oil change would be business costs and half would be personal. But I find it's easier just to buy the car myself, own the car, and then have my corporation pay me monthly an actual cost per mile. And currently it's 57.5 cents a mile. I write myself a check. So if I drive 1,000 miles for work, I'm actually writing myself a check for 570 dollars ish to myself, and that's tax free. So that is a business expense for my business. I write that off, but I also get to apply that money I get back towards my car payment, towards my oil changes, and that kind of thing. So track your miles. It's very, very important. There are some apps that do that for your phone, but I find that many of them are flawed and don't always work. So don't depend on that. Have a piece of paper, a pad in your car somewhere. Write the date down, where you're going, who you're seeing, and the mileage that you had for that, and keep track of all that, because it will be very beneficial from a cost standpoint if you're driving much. Other areas, meals and entertainment, those areas are not written off at 100%. Your CPA will explain more about that, but obviously you're going to eat anyway every day. So if you're going out to eat with someone from a business standpoint, part of that is not tax deductible, and so you'll want to understand how that works. And you're on trips far away from home, it might be different. So again, I'm not going to try to interpret the law for you. Talk to your CPA and see how they want to handle that. Training is another area. All your training expenses, including travel, the cost of equipment for that, the cost of the tuition itself, hotel stays. There's an amount per day you can get from a standpoint of a food stipend on your taxes. So again, talk to your CPA, but all those pieces are going to be tax deductible to some degree. You also want to look at just generally sharing overhead in your business. So, I like to find ways to offset my business. I would rather offset it with employees' income versus just renting a space. As soon as you rent the space out to someone, that space is no longer available to you to run a business and to make a profit off of that area. So if you want to rent to somebody, that's again, it's going to be income to your business by doing that, but the income is going to be a smaller amount than if you actually had an employee and paid them a percentage of that room. And we'll talk more about employees in a bit, but be aware of that as a revenue option for yourselves. I've talked a lot about CPAs, and we'll have a segment here with Sue Vickerman. But when you find a CPA, really do your homework. Ask around, ask other business people in the area, find out. And if you find enough people who recommends the same CPA, it's probably a good bet that person's going to do a good job for you. But the same is true when it comes to banks. And when you want to open your bank up, you want to make sure you interview for your bankers as well. So get references, find a specific person you're going to work with. And those banks compete for your business, but they get bonuses based on accounts that they open. So they want you. They'll find ways to pay for your checks for free. They'll give you lots of bonuses. So don't just settle for walking into a bank and saying, oh, well, I need them. They actually need you. So they wouldn't be in business without you. So don't be afraid to shop around. Get referrals for a good banker, but I want a personal contact at any bank I do business with. I want to have a person I can call if I have a problem. So business bankers are the biggest profit center for them. It's not the personal bank accounts that they have, but they love business accounts. Once you open up your account, you'll be signing a signature card and giving yourself, obviously, access to that account. Think long and hard about who you want to add to that account. Having people being able to sign onto your account is a security risk. You need to be careful with that. Don't assume because you're married it's going to be your spouse, for example. But you want to think long and hard about who has access to that account, who's going to be able to access that to pay a bill or to help you out in any way necessary if you're not able to be in town, something happens. Think that through and have a good plan of attack for covering your rear on financial matters when you're out of town. When you have a secondary signer on your account, it cannot be your CPA. An attorney possibly can do that for you, but I would find someone who you trust. Family is fine, but find someone you trust to have access to that account. You'll also want to make sure you keep clearly separate business accounts and personal accounts. As a matter of fact, some banks don't allow for you to transfer directly money from your business account to your personal account online. They make you actually come in, write a check, and have that deposited. So if you want to do that, if you want to have money transferring from your business to your personal for maybe a shareholder distribution or for a specific check that you're writing to yourself and you want to transfer those funds in, you might have to have a special agreement set up, an approval process to have that ability online. So don't just assume, get that taken care of when you open your account. Make sure you have access to transfer money as necessary from your business account to your personal account. Lastly, on banking, you might want to make sure you have an overdraft coverage of some sort. Talk to your banker, find out the best way. If you have good credit, they'll have a special overdraft account for you. So when you overdraft your check, money is brought into that account. They may have a per transfer fee. Be aware of that. Sometimes it's not cheap. So it's for emergency purposes only. Make sure you're covering your checks and such, because the average daily balance is important. But if something happens, what's going to cover your check for you or cover your charge for automation? Many of my bills are automated each month. So my credit card bills, my all my different leases, whatever, are automatically paid. So if that overdrafts your account, what's going to be plan B? Talk to your banker about that.